The other day, I opened my GitHub feed and noticed something strange. Nearly everything I saw involved AI agents reviewing pull requests written by other AI agents. My social feeds were flooded with developers building yet another wrapper around the same API, while countless trending repositories seemed to be nothing more than markdown files explaining how to communicate with machines. For a moment, it felt like software development had become an endless cycle of prompts talking to prompts. Then I remembered something important. Hidden beneath all the AI hype, productivity gurus, and endless automation tools, there are still real developers creating wildly creative software simply because they can. These projects are strange, beautiful, unnecessary, and often brilliant. Today, we're looking at 10 incredible projects from developers who clearly ignored every rule about sensible software engineering, and that's exactly what makes their work so fascinating. The first project is called Ratty, a terminal emulator written in Rust and heavily inspired by Temple OS. Unlike traditional terminals that simply display text, Ratty renders an entire GPU-accelerated 3D world using the Bevy game engine. The cursor itself is a spinning 3D rat, which should immediately tell you everything you need to know about this project. Users can tilt and rotate their terminal through virtual space, making the experience feel more like exploring a retro video game than running command line tools. You can even import your own custom 3D models from software like Blender and place them directly inside the terminal environment. Of course, all this visual insanity comes at a cost. Ratty consumes roughly 300 megabytes of RAM just to function. The creator openly admits that the spinning rat alone is probably responsible for a significant portion of that memory usage. If a 3D rat terminal isn't weird enough, the next project takes terminal obsession to an entirely new level. It's called Terminal Phone. Imagine sitting inside Vim, surrounded by multiple tmux sessions, and receiving a voice call without ever touching a smartphone. Terminal Phone is an open-source push-to-talk voice and messaging application that operates entirely from a shell script over Tor. There are no servers, accounts, usernames, or phone numbers involved. Instead, your onion address becomes your identity. Everything is temporary, private, and end-to-end encrypted. The developer built an entirely custom communication protocol from scratch. It's the kind of cyberpunk technology people promised decades ago, but never actually delivered. Until now. The next project feels rebellious in a completely different way. Back in the late 1980s, a famous science fiction film imagined a world where special sunglasses revealed the hidden truth behind advertisements. Every billboard and marketing message transformed into commands telling people to obey, consume, and conform. A developer named David Lawrence looked at that concept and decided it would make the perfect ad blocker. After sitting on the idea for years, he finally released a modified version of an ad blocking extension that doesn't simply remove advertisements. Instead, it transforms them into creepy retro sci-fi propaganda messages, making the entire internet feel like an old dystopian movie. There are no servers, accounts, usernames, or phone numbers involved. Instead, your onion address becomes your identity. Everything is temporary, private, and end-to-end encrypted. The developer built an entirely custom communication protocol from scratch. It's the kind of cyberpunk technology people promised decades ago, but never actually delivered. Until now. Not every project on this list comes from independent developers. One of the biggest surprises arrived from NVIDIA. The company quietly released CUDA Oxide, a project designed to solve one of GPU programming's biggest frustrations. Traditionally, writing CUDA kernels requires working with C++, managing low-level memory, and hoping a tiny mistake doesn't create catastrophic bugs. CUDA Oxide allows developers to write GPU kernels directly in Rust. By adding a simple annotation, ordinary Rust functions can compile into GPU executable code. There's no C++ bridge, no foreign function interface, and no complicated integration layer. Just Rust running directly on modern graphics hardware. Of course, all these amazing projects deserve a soundtrack, which brings us to Wario Synth. This bizarre application takes any song and transforms it into something that sounds like it came from a classic Game Boy. Using the Web Audio API, it recreates music with pulse waves, wave channels, and noise channels similar to the hardware limitations of Nintendo's iconic handheld console. The entire conversion process runs directly in the browser without requiring servers or cloud processing. It feels like musical time travel powered entirely by modern web technology. Of course, all these amazing projects deserve a soundtrack, which brings us to Wario Synth. This bizarre application takes any song and transforms it into something that sounds like it came from a classic Game Boy. Using the Web Audio API, it recreates music with pulse waves, wave channels, and noise channels similar to the hardware limitations of Nintendo's iconic handheld console. The entire conversion process runs directly in the browser without requiring servers or cloud processing. It feels like musical time travel powered entirely by modern web technology. Moving into stranger territory, several developers have recently built tools around publicly available Epstein-related documents. One project recreates an email interface that lets users explore communications through a Gmail-style experience. Another provides a searchable database, complete with visual network graphs that reveal connections and relationships across massive datasets. Whether you're interested in investigative journalism, public records, or data visualization, these projects demonstrate how software can make complex information significantly easier to explore. For something a little more positive, let's talk about Exipedia. Social media platforms have perfected the art of keeping people endlessly scrolling, often without learning anything useful. Exipedia asks a simple question: what if infinite scrolling